Hi, my name is Kenny Harris. I'm primarily an installation artist from Syracuse, New York. I have a BFA in painting and a BS in psychology from SUNY Brockport, and an MFA in studio art from Moore College of Art and Design in Philadelphia. I'm currently an adjunct professor at Onondaga Community College in Syracuse. My artwork has always been about stories. Narratives are a good way to explore how people think and how people feel. And so my artwork has always told stories, whether it was exploring H.P. Lovecraft or exploring Dr. Seuss or Wizard of Oz, really just looking at kind of what underlies stories and figuring out what they mean to people, and how to best visually represent that in a way that reflects contemporary society. This body of work comes from actually really a lifetime of research. I started really researching mythology when I was 8 years old. I remember going to the East Syracuse Public Library and taking out every single book on mythology that I could find. Whether it was Greek mythology or Bigfoot stories, I wanted to know it all. And so it's always been a major interest of mine. And while I was doing an artist residency in Ireland at the Ballyvaughan College of Art, I really got immersed in mythology. When I landed in Ireland at the Dublin airport, I met with one of our contacts there, and he shook my hand. He said, "Welcome to Ireland, fairies are real," which is a very different experience from what we're kind of used to in America, where mythology and life are separate from each other. In most of the world, they're not. And so how do we really think about mythology from a global perspective? How do we really think about mythology from a global perspective? And so I started trying to tackle mythology in a different way of not looking at them as separate stories, but the same stories that are being told for the same reasons. We're trying to understand our world, be comfortable, and feel safe. And so myths allow us to do that. They allow us to explore an unknown world in ways that allow us to learn new lessons, feel safe, and not be scared. The figures themselves, obviously they're stationary, they're made out of paper, they are ink and pencil with steel armature to connect them to the shelves. But because they look so animated, the positions they're in, the poses that they take, the space itself needs to be animated as well. And so this pillar that's standing here that rotates, casts shadows around the room that allow the entire space to kind of come to life and move a little bit. That way everything feels like it's moving. There's a little bit more action in the space than just these stationary objects. I said that I want people to come into the space and experience kind of magic and whimsy. Obviously, a lot of times when we enter a gallery space, we're in this kind of serious mindset. And so how do we remove people from that serious mindset? And so the shelves are all made at a little bit higher than what they would normally be put up, so that when people come into the space, we kind of approach it like children. We're now lower, we're looking up at them, much like toys on top of a shelf. This allows us to come in and experience the whimsy and wonder and playfulness that we would experience as children that we don't necessarily always experience as adults. A few questions that I always get when I do this show: what is my favorite figure? I don't have one. My usual answer is whichever one I finished most recently. There are over 1,800 of them in total, so it takes a lot to be able to do these. So usually once I finish 100 at a time or so, whatever one I finished most recently is the one I'm most proud of, because it means I get a little bit of break from making them. They do take a lot of work. They're made on 94-pound mixed media recycled paper. Every single one of them is on the same paper. They have steel armature wire. The larger figures also have aluminum armature wire. The reason they have steel armature wire is that all the shelves have about 10,000 magnets installed in them. And those magnets grab onto those steel armature wires to make sure they stay on the shelves. They are just paper, so the bigger figures can just be sails in the space, and if somebody walks by them too fast, they could fall over. So the magnets and the steel allow them to stand up. What am I doing next with my art? Well, I'm exploring stories in a lot of different ways. I speak a lot about myths from a very kind of globalist standpoint, but what are these personal myths? What are the things we experience? What are these small town myths that a lot of people don't even know about? We find a lot of those myths in the presence of ghost stories. Places that no longer exist, places that have existed for a long time, and the people who have lived there. I've made a series of paintings, and I'm continuing to make a series of paintings, sculptures, and animations that explore our conversation with the stories of the past with what we do now. And so they're pretty advanced paintings that are looking at how we look at a space historically than how we look at a space narratively. And so just like with this artwork, I'm very interested in how people tell stories.